everyone. Welcome to the Carolina Weather Group. We're happy to have you on this Tuesday edition, December 15th, 2020. And we are talking about our first winter weather threat outside of the North Carolina mountains, where a lot of locations right now in North Carolina are under some sort of winter weather advisory. A few counties under a winter storm warning. So we have assembled a great panel. You probably know all of these folks who have been on our show several times. We have Jason Boyer from WLOS in Asheville, North Carolina, Brad Panovich from WCNC in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Christian Morgan on from WFMY in Greensboro, North Carolina. These three markets most likely to see the most effects from this winter weather event. So we wanted to make sure that we had each market covered. So gentlemen, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining us tonight. This is live, so we are going to be monitoring the live stream, the social media accounts. So if you do have any questions or comments throughout the show, please feel free to drop those, and we'll be monitoring them throughout the show so we can get your questions answered. I know Jason's got a 10 p.m. newscast, so and plus he's the most western part of the forecast area. So we'll let Jason Boyer from WLOS start first. Jason, hope you're doing well. Looks like we find ourselves in another wintry weather event. And for you all in the Asheville area, it looks like freezing rain and sleet may be the biggest concern. What are you looking at this hour?
Pretty much spot on, Scotty. Looking at freezing rain and sleet, a mixture of the two, likely starting sometime late tonight here. Not much on radar right now. The moisture is just, cloud cover at this point. The dew points are really low. The wet bulb temperatures indicate that we're going to get at least a freezing tonight or colder, and kind of hang there for several hours into the morning. So that is always the concern when you have moisture running over the top of that shallow layer of cold air. You get freezing rain. What I've noticed in the past here, these events, I've been here 11 years, and we've had several of these events unfold here, and really only one major ice storm that I kind of remember here. So in most cases, this is probably going to end up being more on the lighter side in terms of the ice accretions and or sleet accumulations. But again, you just emphasize to your viewers and anybody out there that it doesn't take much. It takes a glaze of ice to cause issues. And we had that back in 2017, New Year's Eve. It was a glaze of ice that was just mist falling late in the day, and no major weather systems, kind of like the overrunning some warmer air above, and it created mist. And the temperature at the surface was in the 20s virtually all day. So it just created a mess. People were sliding off roads and wrecks all over the place. And that wasn't even a major mesoscale system. I mean, it was a very small event for us, but that caused a lot of problems. So the crippling ice storms, the ones that knock out thousands of people's power and put people, in the ditches all over the place, I just don't see that happening, obviously, with this kind of event. This is also going to mean some sleet, as you mentioned. Sleet is going to limit some of the ice accumulations. There will be places that might start as freezing rain, transition over to sleet, and go back and then become all rain. And it looks like the transition for most in our area will be later in the morning from either freezing rain or sleet, and then changing to rain. And it will take, very subtle difference in temperature, a degree to warm up, and it's all back to rain. And it's just cold rain there on out into the early afternoon. And then on the backside of the system, we actually could get, some mountain snow going again. And that's my other concern when I talked to the viewers tonight. I said, look, the first round is more lower elevations, and then it goes to the higher elevations as the backside of the system comes around and the low pulls up the East Coast and wraps into some colder air. And then we get to that northwest flow snow, which we're pretty familiar with here in Western North Carolina. We had a big northwest flow snow event early December on the 1st. But this one looks to be pretty minor scale there. So that's kind of the setup right now. I've been watching temperatures, and we warmed up a degree, and many places actually are warming now that the clouds have moved in and the wind is picking up. But it's still a northeasterly component to the wind that is always going to mean that Carolina wedge setup. And so we're kind of wait and see, and every hour looking at the HRR model and seeing how things evolve here on the SKUTs. That's the setup right now for us.
And Jason, how is the city of Asheville and the forecast area? I know here in the foothills, a few of the counties have been spreading some salt brine out on the roads. Any preparations up there in the high country of getting ready for the event?
Absolutely. I saw several of the DOT trucks out on my way to get some dinner, spreading the brine and some salt too. We've had, they salted the parking lots here. The folks that take care of
self-limiting process. Once you release heat into the air, and if you don't have more cold air to replace that, you actually warm the air up over time. And I think that's going to happen tomorrow morning. It's just a matter of how quick that happens and in what area does the cold air hang on the longest. And Scotty, you know, up in your area, those upslope, eastern facing slopes, they get a little help from dynamic cooling as well because of the upslope, the mechanical lift of the air. That cold air can hang on the longest. So my biggest concern really isn't the Piedmont. It's like Upper Burke, Upper Caldwell, Eastern Watauga, Avery, Ashe, Wilkes County, man, up there at Yadkin Valley, that area to me looks to be kind of the worst case for icing over the next 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah, definitely. So we like to hang on to that cold air, and you know, Brad, I believe it was a couple of years ago. It was near Christmas. The community of Jonas Ridge, Newland, up in those areas. I mean, just decimated from ice events, and that area kind of seems to be the breadwinner when you're looking at ice accretion. So for you all in the Piedmont, though, the Charlotte area, you could flirt with maybe for a few hours, maybe a glaze in the trees or something.
Yeah, I think, you know, this could be one of those situations where it starts as a little bit of sleet or freezing rain, but it's probably going to transition pretty quickly down here. And even if we get a little bit of ice, the ground's pretty warm. And when the air temperature is marginal, like it is in this setup, 32, 31, 33, and remember, the rain is falling through a layer of the atmosphere where it's probably going to be in the low 40s. So when it gets the ground, it doesn't really freeze on the ground at elevated surfaces. Jason alluded to this, railings, decks, and the tree event. I remember that was a devastating ice storm. I mean, I remember that. All these trees and nothing on the ground. What made it tough getting around was the trees falling into the road. It wasn't that the roads were slick. You just couldn't go anywhere because of trees falling down. So sometimes these ice events, the heavier precip sometimes isn't much of a road issue. It's more of a tree issue. And as Jason alluded to, some of the worst icing on the roads I've ever seen has been freezing fog or mist when it's really super cold at the surface and we only have a tiny bit of moisture, which glazes over everything.
Yeah, and another point, Brad, it's been so wet around here, and the trees are already saturated. Any additional weight definitely could bring down some trees. This over the last couple of days, Greensboro, I think, is number 3. Not really talked about is this could produce, you know, a decent amount of rain tomorrow. Look to surpass and get into position number 2 tomorrow.
We're close. We are just about an inch, little less than an inch away from second place. Honestly,